It's almost 6. It is 6 p.m. and the board is reconvening. There is no action to be reported out of closed session. We welcome members of the public, board members, and staff. Thank you for attending. I'd just like to express it's good to be back and take this opportunity to the community for some of your kind words as I went through a health emergency last week. As noted in board bylaw 9324, this meeting is being video recorded and broadcast via link on our website. The recording and broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. I'd like to remind audience members and speakers that this is not unusual for students and young children to be in attendance at our meetings or to watch the recorded broadcast. I invite you to model civility and decorum as we go about the business of the board this evening. While I cannot prohibit anyone from using unprofessional language, please think about the students and adults who are watching our proceedings. We invite you to show support for a speaker by waving your fingers rather than clapping or cheering. Trustee Rawlings is not here tonight due to a scheduling conflict. We'll begin tonight's meeting with Trustee Ward leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by Trustee Williamson leading us in a moment of meditation, and I will read from the district vision. And Ms. Garcia will take roll after that.
Please stand, put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
I have a friend who was a longtime baseball umpire for a youth league here in the Carlsbad area. And I asked him how he dealt with coaches and parents who challenged his calls or sometimes got in his face. He said he would calmly but firmly say, "Step back." He said that simple phrase helped diffuse the situation almost every time. Ever since he told me that, "Step back" comes to my mind in the midst of heated discussions. When I'm wise enough to heed that phrase, I stop, take a breath, withdraw from the passion of the moment, and find myself becoming open to new ways of addressing the situation. I invite you for the next moment or two to consider if taking a step back might be beneficial to you in some way.
Thank you. Our community and its traditions are deeply connected to our schools. Parents and community members partner with teachers to provide unique educational opportunities for students. Students value the traditions that built our community. Local businesses, the lagoons, preserves, and beaches are an integral part of our identity. Ms. Garcia?
We will now take roll. Trustee Williamson?
Here.
Trustee Ward?
Here.
Trustee Verbeff?
Here.
Trustee Pearson?
Here. Thank you. We'll now move on to Part 4, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion to approve Agenda Item 4.1, approval and/or reorganization of the June 28th, 2023 meeting agenda?
So moved, Williamson.
Second, Verbeff.
Okay, please, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes,
Motion passes 4-0.
thank you. We now move on to Part 5, Communications, Item 5.1, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Churchill.
Thank you. No report from me this evening.
Okay. This is the time that members of the public have the opportunity to address the board on any non-agendized items that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Ms. Garcia, how many blue cards have been received for non-agenda items?
We have received a total of 11 blue cards.
How many? Could you repeat that again, please?
A total of 11 blue cards.
11?
11.
Okay. So with the 11 speakers, that gives each speaker a minute, 45 seconds. In order to allow speakers to present their comments, ensure we are able to properly attend to the business of the board, per Board Bylaw 9323, public comments will be limited to 20 minutes. This means each speaker will have, as I just mentioned, 1 minute, 45 seconds. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the school district. We'll have the timer on the screen, and your mic will be muted when your time has expired. The first speaker is Heather Gehring from LiUNA.
Hi, I first want to just quickly let you know I'm very disappointed that I have 1 minute and 45 seconds because that's not enough time to tell you what I need to tell you tonight. I'd like to take a moment to emphasize the invaluable contributions of our CUSD classified staff and also address the ongoing concerns that our classified are currently facing. I'm going to skip over a lot of what I was going to say, so bear with me here. On the classified personnel page of the district website, it says, classified employees provide essential, non-teaching services to students, teachers, and the public. They are an integral component of our district's dedication to student success. Classified are often the first point of contact for students and parents, offering a warm smile and a helping hand. They are the ones who keep our facilities clean and safe. They provide essential classroom support, manage administrative tasks, yada, 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 yada. I could stand up here all night and rattle off the job descriptions, but truth is I don't have time. And the work that our classified staff members do goes far beyond job descriptions. We're facing significant challenges. In San Diego County, one of the most expensive regions to live, our classified are struggling to make a living wage. As a dedicated 20-year employee myself, single parent relying on a single income, I can personally attest to these struggles as I'm experiencing them firsthand. Many of our classified have been forced to seek additional sources of income and are working multiple jobs simply to make ends meet. We're currently paid wages at the median level, and this is simply not sufficient to support a living wage in San Diego County. Did you know that McDonald's is hiring crew members starting at $16 an hour, or that In-N-Out starts their crew members at $19.75 an hour? Our nutrition service workers start at $15.80 an hour.
I just want to let you know, I'm sorry, your time is up. Thank you. Our next speaker is Rachel Marino-Ott.
Rachel Marino-Ott, CUDA Union President. Good evening, trustees. Today I stand before you to advocate for a cause that affects the very foundation of our education system, the well-being and livelihoods of the hardworking individuals who form the backbone of our schools, the members of LiUNA. It is no secret that our school support staff, including admin assistants, attendance clerks, campus supervisors, custodians, and cafeteria workers, play an integral role in creating a conducive learning environment for our children. They are the unsung heroes who ensure that our schools function smoothly day in and day out. As we so eloquently heard from Reverend Shockley, it is not just the teachers, but also the classified staff who are integral to showing our students they all have a place on our campuses. Moreover, a commitment to fair compensation for our LiUNA members aligns with our community's values of justice and equity. It sends a powerful message that we recognize the importance of all employees who contribute to the success of our educational institutions. regardless of their role or background. I urge each of you to recognize the vital role played by our LIUNA members in shaping the educational experiences of our students. Together, let us build a community that values the contributions of all its members, where no one is left behind, where every individual has the opportunity to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shauna Hurst.
Shauna Hurst. I reside in the district, and I know we're going to talk about a lot of budget numbers tonight, but I know there's only one number Rick Grove is thinking of tonight. One. This is his last board meeting, and I forgot. I had the last minute. I was at See's Candy, and I saw this super cute box of chocolates with this summer print on it, and I'm like, I'm going to buy that for Rick Grove because it makes me think of a board meetings. Box of chocolates, we just never know what we're going to get, do we? So, but guess what? I left the box of chocolates at my house. So tomorrow, either I'm going to run home after and I knew if I ran home, got the chocolates, and came back, I'd probably miss my call. So anyways, at some point tonight, if I run home, because I am close, you're going to get a box of chocolates. We want to wish you enjoy the rest of your summer now that you're retiring, and happy retirement. And just because I'm up here and I was at a PTA meeting and all of our staff speaking, I just have to say, someone asked at the PTA training, said, you know, to really be a successful PTA, what do you need to know? And they said you need to be good friends with the principal and the custodians. And so really, I always want to do a little shout out to our custodians. So they are important, but so is assistant superintendent. So good luck, Rick, and thanks again for a great 10 years.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kaylee Teagle.
Hello, my name is Kaylee Teagle, and I'm proud to say I am now a Sage Creek alumni. Why do you think that most of your speakers are white? Well, for one, the systematic advantages, white people have greater access to education and opportunities which have provided them more rules to use a platform and speak up. Second, marginalized voices are ignored because of unconscious biases and stereotypes. Some individuals unknowingly or knowingly respond with hate and dismiss their people of color's comments, effectively silencing their voices. This cycle is discouraging and creating an environment where minorities want to stop speaking up because it can feel like they're screaming into an abyss. I am white, and two of my closest friends are black. They are no longer feeling safe attending these meetings. They are no longer sitting right next to me. Their voices have been silenced. When we shared with Trustee Pearson some of the discrimination that they had been through in CUSD, he shared about how he was a minority growing up. Pearson said that he was the only white kid when he went to school in LA and was called a cracker. But were you followed home at night? Did anyone ever spray paint the N-word on your car? Were you ever arrested for smoking weed? Were you ever pulled over for being white, looking suspicious? No, you were not. Pearson, I am white, and I have never experienced racism, and I am a woman. Do you ever get scared walking home alone at night? Do you ever have pepper spray and a taser on your keys? Has your mom told you about taking a forensic case in case you were raped? Pearson, your comments make myself and many other people uncomfortable. I feel unsafe with you on the board. I would like to see you removed from this board, and you do not have to.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jennifer Zamora. If you want to show support, can you do just like everybody else with your fingers, please? Thank you. Next speaker is Jennifer Zamora.
Good evening, trustees. My name is Jennifer Zamora. I have 4 kids, 2 still in the district. I was going to prepare a speech. I didn't tonight. I value your time. I know that we've been talking about DEIB, previously known as DEI, for several years. And I also know that our district has been working on this plan for a long time. And I just want to continue to reiterate my support in favor of DEI. And I also want to remind one of our board members that in July of 2021, he in a podcast also talked about his support and how he valued that this district supported DEI and used it and embraced it. And so he also talked about how CRT is not a part of the DEI plan and that we do not teach CRT in this district. So with that, I just want to say that there's so much more to DEI than just the sexualism that many people are talking about. There's our students that are Jewish, there's our students that are Hispanic, there's our students that are low socioeconomic. Many of our classified students serve these students. They provide support to them, and as well as our classified teachers and our administrators. So again, I just want to reiterate that I am in support of DEI. I know many of you are. We have been doing this for several years. It's time to move forward with a strategic plan, so thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nikki Rudin.
My name is Nikki Rudin, a parent, an employee of Carlsbad Unified, an alumni, all the fun things, but also I keep forgetting to say that I'm also in the master's program that's working on multicultural, multilingual education at Cal State San Marcos. So I oftentimes don't consider myself an expert, but I'm learning quite a lot about multiculturalism and DEI and diversity and all of that. So Mr. Pearson, Ms. Verbuff, and Ms. Williamson, as elected representatives, it is your responsibility to stay informed about the evolving landscape of education and understand the profound impact that a diverse and inclusive learning environment can have on our students. This requires genuine effort to listen, learn, and engage with perspectives from those who have direct experience in the classroom. By supporting or aligning yourselves with people who get on this microphone, who dismiss and undermine the voices of educators, students, and experts who advocate for DEI, you are not only discrediting their valuable insights, but also hindering the progress and perpetuate the systemic inequalities within this education system that we're all a part of. Let's be honest. It is crucial to recognize that DEI initiatives are not about political correctness or agenda pushing. Anyone in education knows that they are about creating an environment where every student is seen, heard, and supported. I will list those students right now. Our homeless students, our culturally and linguistically diverse, our Black students, our English language learners, our students who are in special education, our white students. All of these students, I have not listed all of them, but it supports every single person. Our students are watching. They deserve nothing less than our unwavering commitment to their education and well-being. I implore you to rise above the hate and the noise, listen with an open mind, and actively contribute to the transformation of this educational system. Let's be leaders.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katrina.
Hello, Katrina Weidlich, teacher, parent, and resident in the district. First, I would like to thank all the LIUNA members. They hugged my daughter in September when she fell off the monkey bars at school and remind my son to play nicely with others and to make good choices. They feed our students who are hungry because their parent couldn't cook dinner the night before. They ensure our classrooms are welcoming and clean spaces, or what I consider as a teacher, my second home. Recognize the LIUNA members by giving them more than just a fair compensation, but a recognition of their integral work in our schools. I also would like to thank Superintendent Churchill and district staff for your tireless work in making sure our district is aligned with neighboring districts by ensuring diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are an integral part of serving our students. Districts like Oceanside that have an entire DEI department, and San Marcos, which holds its own equity group that discusses issues like restorative practices and equity in science. I also say this to remind the board that DEIB isn't divisive. Those communities and districts are still moving forward and serving the needs of their students, and that is your duty. Yes, sometimes decisions will be difficult and you will agonize about them, but there is nothing difficult about listening to students. There is nothing difficult about putting students first, especially those who are marginalized. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Fernando Diaz.
I'm not Fernando. Fernando's my husband. Can I tell you why he's not here? He's not comfortable. He's a working class immigrant from Mexico, and English is his second language. And he agonized over whether or not to come, and he made the choice not to be here. Basically, the point was that there's nobody in this room who looks like him. There's nobody in this room who shares his experience. And he wanted to ask you for DEI because he feels that our family deserves respect. And that's it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, I think it's Julianne Lodge.
That's me.
Okay.
I just wanted to, well, I'm a parent. I do live in Carlsbad. My kids attend Carlsbad schools. I feel that in this whole, I feel like inviting in churches derailed us from talking about the groups that really needed to be embraced and elevated in this DEI work, including, of course, you know, as people have been attacking LGBTQ students and families, haven't been talking about families like, you know, my husband. I obviously have a different experience. But I want to tell you about my son with autism. So we haven't been talking about kids with disabilities or neurodivergent. My son maps out his route that he's going to walk during lunch every day with his sandwich because he doesn't know where to go at lunch. A DEIB plan, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, would address that. Teachers don't know how to integrate him into the classroom, how to evaluate what he knows. He's in the top 1% for his IQ, but he doesn't know how to express what he knows. He doesn't know how to work with a group. It's hard. DEIB work would educate his teachers so that they would know how to bring him in and how to make him feel included and a part of the school community. So I just wanted to share that about my son. And his voice is not being heard because of all this other ridiculousness. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is J.B. Scranton.
May it please the board, J.B. Scranton, your #1 substitute and foster parent, and I don't live in the district. First, a thank you for reaching out to help foster youth a little better under your agenda item 7.6. This remains a very underserved population. But now on the occasion of our retirement, an ode. Our HR guy's leaving. Shall we give him some love? Oh, how to pay tribute to that bastard Rick Grove. He denies us due process. He keeps secret files. He shuts off the telephone and lies while he smiles. He blows through the deadlines and hides records off the shelf. So goodbye and good riddance, and go fuck yourself. When presented with critiques about how management falls short, he punishes teachers for voicing complaints. Does he tell us the truth or engage in fair play? Does he tell us he's sorry for wasting his pay? No, Rick uses his authority to mete out revenge. So goodbye and good riddance, and go fuck yourself. As we bid him farewell, will you give me some help? Let the whole audience say it. Let's give him a yelp. Goodbye and good riddance, and go fuck yourself.
That's not appropriate.
Hi, kids.
Do we have another speaker? No, I mean. Okay. Our last speaker is Alicia Sutton.
Hello, Alicia Sutton, and I have 3 kids in the district. This is what you get when you let...
Ms. Sutton, could you speak up just a little more? We do want to hear you.
This is what you get when you let anybody speak on behalf of our students. They just come from Mission Church and all those places. Okay, here's my speech. In our current political, social climate, it appears that we're all using the same terms to represent totally different meanings. 1, woke. To most, it means being aware of social injustice. To some, it is anything that does not fit the ultra-conservative ideology. 2, indoctrination, process of teaching a person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Being a part of a cult is a good example. However, others believe that teaching students to accept the history of slavery as fact and encouraging acceptance for LGBTQ community is indoctrination. Love, my definition is unconditional acceptance. Mission Church will love and accept you if you agree that racism is a myth and you don't go against your biology, as Ethan Williams said. 4, parental right in education. CUSD already embodies this and gives parents full transparency. Read your weekly Google Classroom emails, folks. Then read the books that your kids will be reading if you're still concerned. If you just judge a book by its cover or buzzword, we'll soon be talking about banning math books because a 3rd grader comes home saying he learned division, or a high schooler comes back because they learned integration and calculus. This is dumb.
Thank you. We now move on to Part 6, consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless there is a board request for one or more specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion. This is the time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards for this item.
Thank you. Trustees, are there any items to be pulled for discussion? May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved, Williamson.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We now move on to Part 7, discussion action items. Item 7.1, approval of the 2023-24 Local Control Accountability Plan known as LCAP, and report on progress towards local indicators. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Dr. Nye.
Thank you, President Pearson, trustees, and Dr. Churchill. Tonight, we're asking for board approval of the 2023-24 Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. Over the course of the past several months, we have received significant input from our educational partners. We want to thank our parents, our students, and our staff who provided valuable feedback regarding the goals, success indicators, as well as the actions and services in the proposed plan. Along with the LCAP, we are required by the CDE, the State Board of Education, and in regards to our community, in regards to our local metrics that will appear on our state dashboard next fall. Staff has prepared a slide deck with those local indicators and the reflection scoring tool created by the state. We continue to meet all of our local indicators set forth by the state. So tonight, staff's asking for approval of Exhibit A, which is the proposed LCAP plan on the 2023-24 school year. And I'll just highlight in our local metrics, I'll just show this one slide, which basically lists the priorities that are indicated by the state dashboard, and those priorities, as I mentioned before, will be posted to our own CUSD website, as well as it'll be posted to the state dashboard. But again, you meet your priorities by going through the process. There's a self-reflection tool for each of these priorities in which we score ourselves basically on that self-reflection tool. And if you go through that process, technically you meet that goal per the state requirement. So with that, staff's happy to turn it back over to President Pearson for public comment.
Excuse me, this is a time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We have received a total of 3 blue cards.
How many was that? 3, okay. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the school district. You'll have 3 minutes. We'll have the timer on the screen, and your mic will be muted when your time has expired. The first speaker, Katrina.
Hello, Katrina Weidlich, teacher, parent, and resident in the district. According to the California Department of Ed, the LCAP is a 3-year plan that describes the goals, actions, services, and expenditures to support positive student outcomes. Positive student outcomes. Some think parts of this plan are racist or divisive, and I will admit there is some division, but the division has not come from a DEIB plan. In the 2018-2019 CASP data, pre-COVID, it is clear there is division. In the area of ELA, 59.82% of Latino students met or exceeded the standards, whereas 81% of white students met or exceeded the standards. In the areas of math, 47.83% of Latino students met or exceeded standards, while 74% of white students met or exceeded standards. So yes, there is division. But with this LCAP plan, we have made marginalized students the priority. We have a plan that helps to foster a positive school climate so students aren't scared about being on campus, but instead feel welcomed and sense of belonging so that they can focus on the books they read and the math homework they have. This LCAP plan ensures that the books those students are reading are as diverse as our community, representing themselves in those pages. So please, vote yes on this LCAP plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina McGoldrick.
Good evening. I have been a resident, homeowner, taxpayer, and mother to 3 boys in Carlsbad Unified School District for 8 years and counting. I am here tonight to express my strong support for the LCAP, including the DEIB plan in our public school district. Did you know the California Department of Education specifically includes in their definition of public schools under the 9th bullet point that public schools are non-sectarian, meaning not involving or relating to a specific religious sect or political group. CUSD is a public school district that is maintained at public expense for the education of the children of a community that constitutes a system of free public education, including primary and secondary schools. It is not a school district exclusively for the enrollment of one race, one ethnicity, or one religion, or one specific type of child. That would be the definition of a private school. We would greatly appreciate it if all school board members would vote yes to approve the LCAP, including the DEIB plan tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Scott Davison.
My name is Scott Davison. I live in the district. On the local metrics for the California dashboard, priority 3 tonight, in parent and family engagement, it states, supporting families to understand and exercise their legal rights and advocate for their own students and all students. CUSD's rating is a 4 for full implementation, which appears to be an error because there is a key issue that hasn't been explained to families, and that is the right of parents to obtain any record the school keeps with regard to their child under the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, or FERPA. This also includes the gender identity of a child, regardless of whether the school keeps it a secret or not. Unfortunately, this contradicts the internal memo that Superintendent Churchill sent out to CUSD staff last fall, erroneously claiming that state law prohibits schools from disclosing private student information to their parents. I'll share a little secret with the board. In that memo to the staff, which we obtained via a Public Records Act request, Dr. Churchill claimed he would be pushing out a communication to families with a link to this law, but he never sent it, which you would think he would have if the California dashboard says we have fully implemented the metric of supporting families and understanding their legal rights with regard to their students. Why didn't Dr. Churchill send out this memo? Could it be that he knew his legal interpretation was wrong? Or that it would upset parents to hear that the school was keeping secrets about their children from them? In fact, California law does not state that schools must keep student information a secret from their parents, because that would be in direct conflict with FERPA, rendering that state law unconstitutional. So I have two questions for the board, one easy and one hard. One, should you amend the California dashboard rating since you haven't fully informed parents of their legal rights to know the gender identity records of their children? Number two, how much longer do you want to keep a superintendent who tells CUSD staff to keep critical healthcare and medical information a secret from their parents in violation of both state and federal law? And since I have a few extra seconds, here's a bonus question. Who did Dr. Churchill discuss his statement with before he sent it? I'll give you a hint. It was the guy who led the angry crowd to shout and yell at the board about the pride flag last month.
Staff, do you have anything to add? Trustees, do you have any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, may I have a motion to approve the 2023-24 Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP?
So moved, Williamson.
Second.
Discussion. Trustee Williamson.
I will be voting yes on this, and just as I mentioned at the meeting last week, that there may be changes regarding the $800,000 for struggling students, as well as, since we have not had the DEIB plan finalized yet, that there may be some changes, but I will be supporting this item.
Further discussion? Okay, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.2, approval of the 2023-24 annual budget. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I'll now hand over to Mr. Eric Dill.
Thank you, President Pearson. Good evening, trustees. I hate to disappoint Mrs. Hurst, but I was not planning on going through a lengthy discussion of budget and the numbers this evening, because we did that a week ago. So we had a lengthy presentation and quite a lengthy discussion as well. So everything is unchanged from what we presented to you last week, knowing, of course, that the budget is a plan. It's a snapshot in time, and at any point during the year, the board can make changes to that plan, staff can bring back recommendations to that plan, and there are a number of touch points along the way in which we formally do that, but we also would have opportunities at any time of the year to make adjustments as necessary. We're in a little bit of a different situation than we normally are this year, in that because we are adopting the district budget so late, we actually have some details on the state budget as they began to trickle out on Monday and were enacted upon by the legislature yesterday, and a few bills are sitting on the governor's desk right now. So just very quickly and high level, and I'll promise to give you more detail as we learn precisely how it will affect the district. In terms of the 2023 revenue assumptions, there are no changes. There's no change to our local control funding formula estimate. There's no changes to special education revenue or any of the other state-funded programs. Everything that we assumed went right through in the State Budget Act. The biggest change for us is actually a change in revenue for this current year. And that is that with respect to both of the large block grants, the Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant and the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Discretionary Block Grant, both of those were partially restored from what the governor's proposed cuts were. So there was a compromise on both of those. With respect to Learning Recovery, the original allocation has been cut to 75%. With as I explained earlier, with a pinky swear that they will pay the other 25% beginning in 2025 in 1/3 installments over the next 3 years. So 25, 26, 27, they promised to give us the other 25%. That grant was originally proposed to, or in May was proposed to be cut by 1/3. So by backing off from 1/3 to 1/4, that's about another $600,000 of revenue that we will add back this year as we close the books, pending direction from the County Office of Education. With the Arts, Music, Instructional Materials Block Grant, that was just suffered a minor cut of just a little under 6%. And so while it was not fully restored, it looks like we should be able to build back approximately $3 million into the budget from the 50% cut that we were assuming in May based off of the governor's proposal. So that's good news. The board had previously adopted a plan for use of those dollars. As of last week, the board instructed changes if that was fully restored. I think with the additional revenue, both with Learning Recovery and Arts and Music, it will warrant some additional discussion on do we have new priorities now that we have this additional revenue, and maybe revisit the Arts and Music plan formally, take into consideration the unanimous act by the board last week to allocate $800,000 of the block grant if it was fully restored, and revisit that plan. I've had a number of conversations very quickly today with Dr. Nye and Ms. Arias on how we could implement the action that was discussed last week. So other than that, there are no changes to the budget that is proposed tonight, and just remind the board of their obligation to pass a budget by Friday. And with that, I have no further presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Dill. This is the time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We have a total of 2 blue cards.
Thank you. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the school district. You'll have 3 minutes. We'll have the timer on the screen, and your mic will be muted when your time has expired. The first speaker is Alicia Sutton.
Hello, Alicia Sutton. I have 3 kids in the district. Last board meeting, we had over 50 speakers on the topic of DEIB. We were all so focused on this topic that we failed to listen to the math, our district's proposed budget for DEIB. The following information was confirmed to me by Dr. Churchill about our Forward Together DEIB plan. 1, $315,000 is a grant from the Educator Effectiveness Fund, and I researched what we can use these funds for, and it's only for professional learning of certificated teachers. It cannot be used for students or even for hiring new staff. It cannot be used to give teachers a raise. If DEIB is not approved, we lose these funds for next school year, but we can add them back to the 2024-25 or 25-26 school year's budget, but after that, it's gone for good. Item 2. $37,000 of the LCFF supplemental fund. They have to be allocated to the programs they are tied to now on the current budget. $10,000 towards a new civics curriculum, $17,000 in total for various small district-wide activities like Red Ribbon Week and Great Kindness Challenge, $10,000 towards things that are required to maintain our No Place for Hate status. But perhaps this is what we're all divisive about, and it's a shame that the news station isn't here, because it seems like if people were listening to the news, we would probably lose that status already. Today, we're more united, and there's only one person who's here for the other side. Item 3, $25,000 state grant for ethnic studies. This is probably just enough to spend on the Ethnic Studies Film Academy class that was already approved. 4, $25,000 state grant for A-to-G improvement. Its goal is to expand ELA and summer bridge courses to increase student participation in high-level courses. By the way, ELA stands for English Language Arts and not English as a Second Language, which is ESL. I don't think I have to define this for the people here, but I wish I had something like this to say last time. Item 5, the remainder amount of $17,000 from LCFF base grant, according to Dr. Churchill, is the only money that can be used creatively towards the beach volleyball court on CHS or SAGE. That's pretty much the $415,000. There is no conspiracy here, folks. Carlsbad Unified is not recruiting or grooming kids to be gay. I married a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Republican, white Republican, thinking I might turn white a little bit. But nope, I'm still Asian, okay? People are who they are. It's pretty obvious.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christina McGoldrick.
Resident, homeowner, taxpayer, and mother to 3 boys in Carlsbad Unified School District for 8 years and counting. I am here to express my strong support for the budget, including the DEIB plan in our public school district. This is a repeat. Did you know the California Department of Education specifically includes in their definition of the public school under the 9th bullet point that public schools are non-sectarian, meaning not involving or relating to a specific religious sect or political group. CUSD is a public school district that is maintained at public expense for the education of the children of a community that constitutes a system of free public education, including primary and secondary schools. It is not a school district exclusively for the enrollment of one race, one ethnicity, one religion, or one type of student. That would be the definition of a private school. As a parent that has written, won, and implemented over $150,000 in grants and donations across multiple CUSD school sites in the last 8 years, if there are future issues with funding for the DEIB plan, I would be more than happy to volunteer my time and grant writing abilities, since most grants are only for 1 year, and then they have to be reapplied and renewed. Tonight, we would greatly appreciate it if all school board members would vote to approve the budget, including the DEIB plan. Thank you.
I just want to remind the audience that we do not accept blue cards after an item begins. Staff, do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
Okay. Trustees, do you have any questions? Trustee Williamson.
Just a quick clarification. So, are there items that are in the budget that are included in the DEIB plan that if we don't use for DEIB, we lose those funds? I was unaware of that.
No, none of those would be used. They would just have to be reallocated in different ways.
Would we need to wait for a year to do that, or we could do it at any time?
No, in particular, the biggest item is the educator effectiveness grant, and we could adjust this next school year or in future years. That all of those dollars were received all at once last school year, and we've had a plan to spend approximately evenly over the 5 years of the period of that grant. So we have the ability to be flexible with how much we spend within each year up until the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, trustees? May I have a motion to adopt the 2023-24 annual budget?
A motion.
Second, Williamson.
I'd just like to have the motion read back one more time, please.
Yeah, so the motion was to, it's respectfully recommended that the board adopt the 23-24 annual budget.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Could we have some discussion, President Pearson?
I'm sorry?
Can we have discussion? Though it doesn't appear that the music, art, and instructional materials grant was fully funded, block grant was fully funded, the proposed cuts were, as Mr. Dill mentioned, much less than was initially reported. Thus, I'm asking for the support of my fellow board members to direct staff to add a budget item for $800,000 to be used for struggling elementary students as identified by their scores on SBAC, STAR tests, and achieved 3,000, as we discussed last week. Schools would receive the funds based on the number of struggling students, not on the overall number of students. As soon as possible, instructional services would provide principals with a list of identified struggling students, and the funds the site will receive, and the principals would then work with instructional services and their staff to identify how the funds would be used. I'm asking for my fellow board members to support that.
Are you looking for the other trustees to comment on that?
Or if you'd like to call for thumbs if they have no comments. In your absence last week, we had this discussion, but Ms. Rawlings clarified that it was only if the art, music, and instructional materials grant was fully funded. So I just want to clarify that even though it wasn't fully funded, the cuts were much less than were initially reported. And so I would like to, in spite of the fact that it wasn't fully funded, have the board direct staff to add that $800,000 as a budget, a line item in a future budget.
Are you asking for which year?
For the 2023-24 school year. In other words, it would be at either the 45-day revise or at whenever. In other words, the next time we would see a budget, it would include that item, so then the principals and instructional services would know that they would be planning on that.
I think I understand what your request is to the trustees. Let me ask Dr. Churchill, and just in terms of protocol for that type of request, how would we proceed?
Trustee Williamson is asking for consensus from her colleagues via thumbs, and that's appropriate.
Okay.
But we're still in discussion right now, correct? Okay. So just to clarify, is that the interventions that you were talking about before?
Yes.
Okay, and giving the discretion to the principals in order to figure out how they're going to use that?
Working with instructional services, yes.
Okay.
Trustee Verbeff?
I'm ready to vote.
So if I just want to be clear, Trustee Williamson, if what Mr. Dills said, that if we get the back, add that to that line item to do that, is that what I understand you're asking for? I just want to be clear on that. So I would support that because that has been part of our plan all along to do that. So I think this is a time to see how many thumbs would support that or not. Okay, that's 4 thumbs. Mr. Dill? Okay. Okay, other discussion on the budget? Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.3, adoption of the 2024-25 school calendar. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Mr. Rick Grove.
Before you this evening for consideration is a draft calendar for the 24-25 school year. It's very similar to the current calendar and the upcoming school year calendar, the most significant difference being that we're beginning school, or recommending that school begin a bit earlier than in the past with a start date of August 21st. That start date will allow the conclusion of the first trimester to back up to Thanksgiving break, which is something that Sage Creek High School has advocated for. It also benefits the Carlsbad High School fall sports programs and provides an additional week of instruction prior to AP testing, as has been advocated for previously by trustees. I would like to acknowledge the committee members for their work and commitment to helping us develop a calendar. Megan Arias, Director of Certificated Personnel, Rachel Austin, Director of Classified Personnel, Michael Lecter, Principal, Calavera Hills Middle School, shortly to become Coordinator of Student Services, Heather Gehring, LIUNA President, Jimmy Hines, Principal of Aviara Oaks Elementary, Stacy Sauls, who is the CUDA representative, Jesse Schuweiler, who is Principal of Sage Creek High School, and Shauna Hurst, who is our parent representative. The committee analyzes calendars with consideration given to maximizing attendance, revenue, and student achievement, and they solicit input from their constituents as well. And unless there's any further questions, I turn it back over to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Grove. This is time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards for this agenda item.
Okay. Staff, do you have anything to add? No. Okay. Trustees, do you have any questions? May I have a motion to adopt the proposed district calendar for the 2024-2025 school year?
So moved, Williamson.
I'll second.
I didn't hear the second. Trustee Ward, discussion? No discussion. Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
A resounding yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.4, presentation, Measure HH Bond Program Monthly Update. This is an information discussion item. I will now hand over to Mr. Dill.
Thank you, and once again, thought we would take this opportunity this month to just run quickly through all of the projects that we have going on during the summer. We have 6 schools that are under some serious construction right now, so I've got some photos and I'll run through the progress on those, and 2 other schools that will be coming up. So these are the schools we'll be going over: Calavera, Jefferson, Hope, Kelly, Buena Vista Valley, and Aviara Oaks. We do have some other smaller projects that are happening throughout the district, and I won't be mentioning those this evening. These are all covered by Measure HH. Day after school got out, we started working. These are some photos showing some preliminary work that we're doing at Calavera Hills Elementary. The ultimate project there is installation of a new classroom that will serve as a STEAM room, a STEAM classroom. And so at this point, what we're doing is the unsexy work, which is the path of travel and underground utility work that it takes to take power and water to those classrooms. So we need to do that first. By the end of next month, we should have delivery of the modular classroom, which is currently being fabricated, and then the installation runs rather quickly on that. So working really quickly to get that one done for the beginning of the school year. At Jefferson, this is an example of just a project that is running very smoothly. We started last year, will be done by the beginning of the school year. We completed previously the culinary arts and STEAM classroom at that site. Now we're going in and doing the balance of the work, which is interior classroom modernization in the 700s classrooms. You can see the playground demolition. So in addition to putting in new rubberized surface and updating that. They will be getting new play equipment, so that's similar to what we've already done at Hope, Kelly, Magnolia. So Jefferson will also be receiving new play structures as well. And then all of the stuff nobody else sees underground, which levels out our paths for path of travel that we always must do. In the good news department, Hope Elementary and Kelly Elementary, we've received all of our permits. And so the recycled water, grading, and storm water. So Hope is finally in its final stage of construction. And I really love the aerial drone shot. We received the permits last Monday, so on June 19th, and the next day started trenching. And you can see on here, let's see, I don't know if you can see my cursor. No, you can't. But you can see in the aerial photo where we've removed a significant area of blacktop. We have removed blacktop in the areas of the new lunch shelter because we need to do some underground work there. That's what was holding up the lunch shelter installation. And as soon as we get out from under the ground, lunch shelter and a new shade structure will be installed at Hope Elementary. So we are now finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel for this project. At Kelly, same thing as we are going in and completing final work. We've moved into the permanent classrooms to do a similar modernization as what you saw in the portable classrooms. So new lighting, carpet floors, tech package in Kelly. If you drive by Kelly, I drive by it twice a day, you see these tanks that are outside. It looks like we've opened up a microbrewery, but actually these are tanks that are taking out the groundwater in the area where we are excavating in the front parking lot to put the stormwater retention basins underneath that parking lot to mitigate the stormwater. So as they're excavating, they're also clarifying and removing this groundwater and disposing of it. And so everything must be back in place by the first day of school. Our seasoned board members may recall that originally it was planned to put that retention basin underneath the kindergarten playground, and it just didn't make sense because if we ever had to go in and do any maintenance or anything else, it would be ripping up a play area. So it makes much more sense to put it under a parking lot where we can lose a few parking spaces for a while and not disturb a playground area. So that also is running along quite smoothly. At Buena Vista, we have just received our first round of comments from the Division of State Architect on the civil and site work for that upper pad that you see there. We will be submitting, based off of the comments from DSA, we'll be going into the city of Carlsbad since we are doing significant grading work there, so we will need grading and stormwater permits. So following updating DSA, we will then put in conforming documents into the city for those grading plans, and we will begin the design for the modular buildings, which would begin next summer, where we would be doing that project. So we're still in the design and approval phase on that, but hopeful that we will get going and be shovel ready for next summer. And then I think finally, maybe I've got one more after this. Valley Middle School, this summer we're doing quite a bit of underground work. We're replacing utilities. That school has had some real drainage issues with sewage line backups and other things, and so we're going in and replacing those lines. Lots of tree roots have intruded over the years, and so we're taking care of that problem. Also taking care of new roofing on a number of buildings, and we are going into also the 500s, and I can't remember the other building that we're going into, where we're doing the full interior renovation package as well that we have done at other schools, but this is the first middle school that we've gone in to do this work. And so the interior work will be done by the end of the summer. The roofing work will be done by the end of the summer. We may still be doing some of the underground work, and then we will be moving through that campus in a methodical way, moving teachers around and, or I should say classrooms around to complete that project ultimately next year, next summer. And then finally, Aviara Oaks. the interior renovations, and once again, what we're looking for is a consistent look in terms of the energy efficiency, the lighting, the carpet, and all of those packages. In particular at Aviara Oaks, you may recall that there were grass berms that went right up to the edge of the building and halfway up the wall. That eventually leads to moisture seepage into the masonry, which is not a good thing if that gets into classrooms. So we've made the decision to take those berms down and expose that. We'll dress it up around the front so it won't look like this kind of bare masonry look. We will dress up around that area. And these rooms, classrooms are also getting new roofs. And so a brand new roofing system will go in on these classrooms. That will be in conformance with the new building that we will put in next year for 800. So we'll have a nice consistent look with the roofing as we go through the campus, metal seam roof. We're also taking off those windows on the very top. The new ceiling is much lower with the more efficient lighting and more efficient energy use to only cool a smaller portion of the classroom. So we were going to lose that daylight anyway, and so in order to make the roofing consistent, and also the daylight was no longer going to be part of that classroom environment, we're just going to go ahead and peak those off so it'll look like the other buildings. And once again, with the roofing lower, it will be more energy efficient to cool the classrooms and also be better lighting on that as well. So that is the update on everything that we're doing in Measure HH.
Thank you, Mr. Dill. This is time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We have 2 blue cards for this agenda item.
Okay. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the school district. You'll have 3 minutes. We will have the timer on the screen, and your mic will be muted when your time has expired. This first speaker is Shauna Hurst.
Well,
one moment, Ms. Hurst, while I get a timer.
Well, I'm not going to take 3 minutes, Mr. Dill, so no worries. We finally got HOPE approval. I mean, really, people don't realize how long we've been waiting for that. And I've heard from the HOPE community that they are so excited that literally we got the approval and the next day, truly we were moving ground. And I know, hats off to Mr. Dill and Jessica Kimbrell. They've been working really hard for the summer sprint, and they literally, every campus was under construction as soon as the kids walked off the campus almost. I came back to Calavera campus on Monday after school, and I literally almost ran into the fence that was around in the parking lot for construction, and I was so happy. It's just so exciting to see all these HH dollars. I am the crazy oversight committee member who has driven to every school to look at the construction because I'm just so excited, and I'm confident in all the teams that we will be ready to go back to school in the fall, but it's just so exciting to see all this exciting work, especially when you've seen what's been going on at Magnolia. That success story, if you were here last week, that multi-grade class that was highlighted, that is because of HH dollars reconfigured those classrooms, and that would not have happened without the construction and the bond. So it's just so exciting to see the last phase really paying off in the classroom, and what a difference it truly does make to our educators to be in these facilities that allow us to do so many amazing things. So thank you. I'm excited for our tour for oversight at the end of July, and excited to be back in the classes. And finally, we have construction at a campus I'm at. So, well, I'm not at Calavera Elementary anymore, but I do walk by it every single day, and it's exciting to see it. So good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker is Nikki Rudden.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to talk about this. I wasn't planning on it, but it is a beautiful link. And I want to actually start by saying I'm speaking as a parent. I also do work at Buena Vista, and this is not a reflection of Ms. Giordani, or I'm not even sure if teachers feel this way, but I feel this way. And I'm actually have a different perspective, that I'm bummed that we're not going to break ground at BV until next summer. And I know, I don't know enough about that, I'm sure permits and all of that, and I sat in a PTA Zoom meeting last year where I think we were supposed to break ground on the tunnel and all of that. Past the last summer, and then this summer, we got the little update. But this is where it ties back to DEIB. Like, we're talking about equity and facilities. Buena Vista, you all know, I went to school there. I'm gonna be 40. The school looks exactly the same way it did. The trailers where the students are that are gonna no longer be there house our special education preschool. I'll just pause for that. Our speech pathology, there's a teacher's lounge, there's an art room that is, I would love to say that I would love to teach in that classroom. I would take a job in a second from Carlsbad Unified. But that classroom, they're old, and I know you know this, but this is part of that whole idea that when you look at facilities and equity, and we're a small school, we're a diverse school. We're not even on phase 1, everybody. So I just, it's not to say I don't know whose plate this lands on, but it's just part of that bigger conversation. And it's something I know many of you agree with, so I'm bummed out, you know, and I have other BV parents here with me, and I don't know, I don't know if there's a fix for that, but that's part of those inequities we talk about in education. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with many people here, but that's the work we've got to do, right? So that's the work we're talking about, is that we look across, even our classified staff. I'm gonna go because I have the microphone. Most of them are people of color. You know, you look at our classified staff, if you do a data dive into the ethnicities, like, these are the people on the front ground, like on the front lines. They are welcoming our students. They're our most diverse staff. So it's all linked together, and I'm so glad I got 3 minutes. I appreciate all the work you're doing, but I just want to highlight that and be a voice to that inequity. So, love BV. I'll sing the song for you if you guys want me to. Thank you.
Thank you. Staff, do you have anything to add?
I'll just say that, yeah, our original plan was to get going this summer, but, you know, following bringing on Ms. Kimbrell and her looking at the original plans that we had for that and working with the architects, I think what the plan that we have now is so much better than what we originally started out with, in that it's going to provide more play space by not building back in place where we're removing portables and putting them back in. It actually meets a need that they have for larger play space. It's going to better unify the early grades, so from preschool, TK, and the classrooms will be designed potentially for TK, but from preschool to kindergarten and those early grades all being together, you know, with similar play structure and equipment. And then ultimately what's going up on that larger pad is going to be so much better, and it took time to redesign that. And what really has held it up is not what's going above ground, but what's going in under. And as the board is aware, you know, we have to be very careful and specific as we are creating grading plans and working with our partners in the city of Carlsbad, who we have now forged a very good relationship with, to make sure that everybody is on the same page on what we're doing. And so, you know, that was essentially what delayed that. But the outcome of that project, you know, I truly believe and, you know, say honestly is going to be much better than we originally had imagined that campus was going to receive.
Thank you, Mr. Dill, for that additional. Trustees, do you have any questions? Well, I do. Mr. Dill, some wonderful projects going to be going on during the summer. What is the communication plan beyond what we've already done to the community in terms of letting them know what's going on at these campuses?
Yeah, so the board has seen in previous updates the redesign of a community communication tool that we use that has it's a 2-pager recap of the scope of the project, and also showing, either renderings, whether it's schematics or site plan, with budget updates, timeline updates, what's currently going on, what's on the near horizon. And we did those prior to school going out. The plan is in August that we bring those back up for the schools that have undergone construction, and if there is any spillover into the new school year, to say, here's what we got or here's where we are right now, and bring that up, very similar to what we did at Jefferson. And I know the board saw several iterations of that communication. Those will be happening for those 6 schools that I just went through. Actually, I'll say 7, because we can do one for Buena Vista as well. Even though it's not under construction, we can start up here's the communication on the construction, and what the plans are. And those have been very well received. We share them with you first as part of the monthly HH update. They get posted to the board agenda, and then following the board meeting, Ms. Kimbrell shares those with the principals for their communication. And they've gone on the school websites, and I'm not sure how different principals have either linked or included it in their other communications to their communities as well.
Just a follow-up, and I know that those are great communications within the school community, but the non-school community, what plans, or is the city going to let everybody know that, hey, these 6 schools, campuses, these are what's going on? Are we going to have anything in print media?
We really haven't developed a plan outside of our own. We make reference in the community updates that Dr. Churchill sends out periodically. Those will often be referenced what is happening with Measure HH, to the extent that those get sent out to a broader community than just our school campuses. Those updates are often included, but no, the city doesn't advertise our great projects for us, other than they make us put a sign on the front to say what the construction hours.
The only reason I ask those questions is because the people who are paying for this are not just the school community. It's a non-school community as well, too, to do that. So just a thought.
Keep that in mind.
Okay, trustees, now is the time for discussion. Any discussion? Let me ask my colleagues here how you feel or think about communication as it relates to these projects outside of the school community. Trustee Williamson.
Are there signs outside saying, I believe at our other sites, that, changes being brought by, measures, so that people as they drive by, they'll see that these changes, upgrades are being funded through the taxpayers?
I know we've done that in the past. I can check in with Ms. Kimbrell to see if I drive by Kelly, as I said, twice a day, and I haven't noticed that we've got anything like that on Kelly, but that's a good idea, and I've done that in 2 other districts as well. And with the Measure HH, along with at least one good-looking rendering of what's going to happen, and often the architects and builders like to have their names on that as well, and sometimes they'll pay for the sign if they do that.
Thank you, Trustee Williamson.
Yeah.
Trustee Ward, what do you think?
I think communication's always great. I think Ben does a great job of sharing what's going on. And is this information available on the website?
We do, this is very similar to what we do for the Independent Oversight Committee, and we do link our presentations and agendas there. We are revamping, along with the rest of the district website, our updates for projects. So if anybody clicks on that bond measure icon on the homepage, it takes them to updates on that. If they're interested, they can go there and see it. And so that's a continual process of looking back, what was the last thing that we posted? We need to do an update, but we always include these presentations that we do for the IOC, and of course these are connected with the board agenda as well, if anybody's looking at that.
Great.
Trustee Verbev?
It sounds like we're covering what we need to cover. If it's going to be on the website, we post a sign, and when, I don't know when your next committee meeting is with the city, just had one, so maybe that's a time when we can report to them as well.
Yeah, my thought is we're very fortunate that our community voted for the bonds that don't have kids in our district. And we have a growing community that doesn't have kids in our district. And who's to say in the future we don't have to have another bond to go. So I always think about the seniors here in our community, that the more we let them know how wonderful and where their money's going, they're paying for this, the better we're off, not only now, but for the future as well. So that's just my thought on that as well. Okay, so thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.5, revision of board policy, second reading. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Dr. Churchill.
Thank you, sir. This item is a second reading of 3 board policies, first reviewed on May 17th. Please note that we did make one minor modification to board policy 6170.1, transitional kindergarten. If you were to open that policy in board docs, you'd see that on page 2, under the heading of staffing, the second paragraph was edited for clarity between the first reading and the second reading tonight. We did not change the substance of the meaning of that sentence. Otherwise, the text of the 3 policies remain unchanged from the first reading on May 17th, and we'd ask for your approval as a second reading this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Churchill. This is time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards.
Okay, staff, do you have anything to add? Trustees, do you have any questions? May I have a motion to approve board policies 5148.2, 6158, and 6170.1 as a second reading?
Motion.
Second, Williamson.
Okay. Discussion? Okay, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 7.6, revision of board policies, first reading. Trustee, this is a discussion action item. I'll now hand over to Dr. Churchill.
Thank you. There are 6 policies before you as a first reading, 5 of which are existing policies that CSBA has recommended we revise. Per direction given at the May 17th meeting, staff forwarded CSBA's model language to trustees Williamson and Rawlings for review and feedback prior to adding to the agenda this evening. Trustees Williamson and Rawlings have reviewed, and they did recommend adopting CSBA's updated language for the 5 existing policies. The 6th policy, board policy 6120, is a new one. Trustee Williamson requested that we change CSBA's verbiage from response to instruction and intervention, or RTI2, to multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, to better align with our programs and practices. Staff made those changes to the version attached to your agenda this evening. Trustee Rawlings indicated that she may have a few additional questions about this one and requested that it be brought back for a second reading at a future meeting. Staff respectfully requests that the board approve all 6 policies as a first reading, and will bring all 6 of them back for final approval at a second meeting, as a second reading at a future meeting.
Okay, this is time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards.
Thank you. Staff, do you have anything to add? Okay. Trustees, do you have any questions? Let's see. Oh, first we need a motion. May I have a motion to approve board policies 0430, 0450, 5116.1, 6120, 6173, and 6173.1 as a first reading?
So moved, Williamson.
Second, Verbeff.
Discussion? I'd just like to thank Trustee Williamson and Trustee Rawlings. Trustee Rawlings is not here, but certainly when I do see her, pass that on for the work that you both have done together collaboratively to put these board policies in line with our practices as well. So thank you for doing that as well. Okay, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Part 8, Governance Team Reports and Request. Are there any governance team reports? Well, I have one. So this week was the city school meeting, and the real theme of the meeting was about collaboration between the city, and that, when I say the city, it means the council, the mayor, the departments, the various departments, and on the school side is our trustees as well as our different disciplines within our district. And I thought that one thing that Dr. Churchill really pointed out was the increase in SROs and the support that we've gotten from the city on having additional SROs in this environment that we are in these days to do that. And then I think Mr. Dill pointed out that hopefully we're a lot more collaborative than when we first started on these bond construction projects than we are now. So there was I think a sense from the city that they wanted to collaborate more after some work was done on that. In attendance there was from the school districts, there's essentially 4 districts that are within the boundaries of the city of Carlsbad: Carlsbad Unified, San Diego Union High School District, Encinitas Union School District, and actually San Marcos as well too. On our side, representing CUSD was Dr. Churchill, Director Tim Evanson, and myself. There was only one other board member from all those boards besides myself, and that was a member from San Diego, which was unfortunate to do that. And then on the staff side for the city was the city manager, Scott Chadwick, Jason Haber, that is the Director of Intergovernmental Affairs, and Tom Frank, who is the City Transportation Director. All the superintendents from at least 3 districts were there and gave updates. There was a lot of interest from the 2 council members that were present, which was Councilmember Priya Patel and Councilmember Teresa, what's Teresa's last name? Acosta there. And they were very much interested in hearing what the status was of our DEIB plan. There was a traffic safety emergency update with projects, regulations, and education. Hopefully I got this right, 30% of the traffic in Carlsbad has to do with schools. I think that's that, yep. Well, that's the number I got anyway, wrote down. And I think year over year, since the city had made it an emergency, regarding what was happening on traffic, there has been a decrease of 19% in injury collisions. I suggested that they report out how many of these injuries are related to juveniles or under 18. So we have an idea that all the things we're doing as a district are having an impact on our young people and our students as well. In the next year and a half, the city of Carlsbad is going to be having some heavy street construction going on. So they will be communicating from their side about it, and we'll be communicating from our side so parents know about this construction and may delay drop-offs and pickups as well. Let's see, there was a discussion on interagency communication protocols. And a lot of this falls under collaboration that in no way violating any First Amendment of anybody is to make sure that that if a council member or a school board member wants to communicate through social media regarding, if I wanted to talk about the city and get people to a meeting, something about the city, I would at least alert the city ahead of time about that. That's an ask. It's not a requirement to do that. On the committee member requests for future agenda items, one of the big items that we all agreed, both council members, school board members, superintendents, and staff, was the problem we have here in Carlsbad on drugs, particularly fentanyl, and how does that relate to our young people as well. So the next school city meeting is in September, and that will be on the agenda. So that ends my report on that. Are there any requests? Okay. Part 9, continuation of oral communication on agenda items. Nope, we don't have any on that, correct? Okay. Part 10 and Part 11, adjournment and next meeting. So nobody leave yet, quite yet. Before I adjourn the meeting, I want to thank Mr. Rick Rowe for his more than 10 years of service to our district staff, students, and community. I think I'm not going to say anything about the clapping on this one, okay? On this one. This is his last meeting, and he will be missed. He truly will be missed, and I'll miss floating a lot of different things across his breadth of experience in school, in academia as well. Trustees, would you like to add anything about Mr. Grove before we adjourn? Trustee Williamson.
Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Trustee Ward? Trustee Burbeth?
Thank you, Rick.
Do that. And I'm just going to add one other comment, and not to embarrass you or anything, but I think it's pretty well known in Carlsbad that he knows something about birds. So please take the opportunity. He will be leading monthly bird walks.
Third Sunday of every month.
Okay, we'll do a little commercial there. But we have a very large bird population. They're pretty interesting, and Mr. Grove brings a lot of that to life for everybody. So with that, it is time. The regular meeting is now adjourned. Our next regular meeting will take place on July 19, 2023 at 6 p.m. The meeting will be held here, Sage Creek High School Performing Arts Center. Thank you.